All right, section 5, the endless treadmill of IRDs. Because IRDs run entirely on autopilot, they override any specific issues you try to discuss. That's why lots of unrelated issues get brought up in IRD exchanges. The topics aren't related, but the feelings driven by the IRD are very much related. So your brain's associating all these different issues and topics because the feelings are the same. Feelings are always the same in the IRD. So lots of things get brought up, and you're trying to say, hey, let's just focus on this one thing at a time. That's not going to work because your feelings are going to still feel unregulated if you just focus on the topic. Now, how we make IRDs worse. Focus on facts, just the facts, man. That implies that your partner's feelings and perspective don't matter. So the more you introduce facts, the worse the IRD is going to get. Trying to argue your partner out of his or her perceptions or feelings. You don't really feel that way, or you shouldn't feel that way. You shouldn't look at it that way. You're wrong. That's always going to make it worse. Now, this is the absolute worst. Blame the dynamic on your partner. She's too sensitive, needy, controlling, or demanding. He's too proud, aloof, afraid of intimacy, insensitive, dishonest, or intimidating. As soon as you blame it on your partner, it's spun out of control. You're at the mercy of that treadmill of IRDs. And here's why. You can never solve the problem because the problem's not the problem, it's your partner. Your partner's the problem. Your partner needs a personality transplant for you to solve it. Problems, you never get to them. You're the problem, or I'm the problem. The problem's not the problem. Now, in IRDs, no one self-regulates. Self-regulation is the ability to regulate emotions. That means calm yourself down when upset and cheer yourself up when you're down. That's a simple way of explaining emotion regulation. So self-regulation includes the ability to regulate emotions. It also includes the ability to hold on to self-value when you don't like your partner's behavior, so you don't feel devalued by it. So you don't like your partner's behavior, or your partner doesn't like what you're doing. You don't feel devalued. That's self-regulation. You can hold on to your self-value. And it's the ability to hold on to value for your partner when you don't like your partner's behavior, so you don't devalue him or her. Because once you devalue, you can't negotiate. You're just going to get into this IRD power struggle. Now, you can't hold on to your value for your partner if you can't hold on to self-value. That's why we put the emphasis on self-regulation. You've got to hold on to your self-value. Then you can hold on to your value for your partner. And once you do that, then you can negotiate about behavior. Now, without self-regulation, IRDs completely control emotions, making the partners push harder or run faster. You keep doing the same thing over and over again, demand, withdraw, pursue, or run away, get resentful or angry. You kind of do that with both fear and shame. You just keep doing more and more of that because it's the only way to temporarily regulate your emotions. No one feels authentic. You lose yourself in reaction to your partner. How can I be me when you're being you? You can't feel authentic in an IRD because you're way too reactive. Now, in IRDs, no one decides what they really want. See, there's struggles about you have to do what I want, but both partners lose track of what they really want. They just want the other partner not to do something. They really aren't sure anymore what they really want. That inner voice of desire has been lost in reaction to the IRD. Pursuers never decide how much closeness they really desire. They just keep pursuing whether or not they want intimacy at that time. Because if they let up, the distance is going to get too far away and they'll never return. So they just got to keep pursuing, even if they don't feel like being close, and sometimes they don't. Distancers often want more closeness. They want to feel more connected, but they're afraid to get him or her started. I can't tell you how much I've heard that. I'd like to be a little more affectionate, but I don't want to get her started, or he'll be all over me and won't let up if I give in a little. So they withhold even when they really want to feel close. Demanders don't want to be hypervigilant or controlling. It feels terrible from large amounts of cortisol. Demander feels bad most of the time. Hypervigilance requires enormous amounts of cortisol. That's what feels bad about emotions. So they don't like it. But if they let up, they think withdrawals will let everything fall apart. So they've got to keep demanding or everything's going to turn into chaos. That's what it feels like to them. So they demand even though they don't want to. Withdrawers often want to be more cooperative. We have an internal reward for cooperating. We like ourselves better usually when we can feel cooperative. It takes so much effort to withdraw, stonewall, or shut down. It's a lot easier to cooperate. But they don't want to reward controlling behavior. I can't tell you how much I've heard that. A withdrawer will not give in even though they really want to, because that'll just reward that controlling behavior. High estrogen partners don't want to be fearful or anxious. It feels terrible. But as long as their partners reject them for being fearful or anxious, they become more so. In fact, that's eventually what they figure out. And after a lot of pain, they get out of the relationship because they understand they can self-regulate if they don't have to react to their partners rejecting them for being anxious. High testosterone partners don't want to be irritable, aggressive, or shut down. But it feels like they have no choice since their partners don't believe in them. See, because testosterone gives you that competitiveness and performance kind of basis for your self-value. You really need your partner to believe in you. Now, the demanding, pursuing partner doesn't believe in you. So you feel like you've got to be irritable, aggressive, or shut down. Of course, the more you do that, the less likely they are to believe in you. How can you believe in someone who's aggressive, shut down, or irritable all the time? So nobody gets what they want. They're just all in pain. The more it hurts, the more both partners seem to play out their respective roles in the dynamic. Demanding and withdrawing, pursuing and running away, resentment and anger feel like powerful emotional needs. Now, the biology of perceived emotional needs. An emotional need is a preference that you've decided must be gratified to maintain equilibrium. You can't be well or feel well or whole without it. The perception of need begins with a rise in emotional intensity. You feel more strongly about getting something. As the intensity increases, it can feel like you need it for one reason. See, it's really a preference, but it turns into an emotional need for this one reason. It's the same emotional precursor of biological need, things you really do need. And you can test that out. Try planting your face in a pillow. The emotional intensity will rise, and the physical substrate of that, your heart rate will increase, you'll start to perspire, your muscles will become tense and rigid before you struggle to breathe. So that's the emotional precursor before you're actually having oxygen deprivation. You can get the same effect if you have to urinate really badly and you're trying to hold it in. Before you get the pain in your bladder, you feel that emotional intensity rise, your heart rate, and all of that. So the precursors with wanting a preference and a biological need are virtually the same. So the brain confuses the rise in emotional intensity with biological need. In terms of motivation, perceived emotional needs are similar to addictions. If the body decides that you have an addiction, the brain decides that you have an emotional need. Once the brain decides that it needs something, pursuit of it can be as compelling as addiction. Emotional needs always come with a sense of toddler entitlement. So it looks like this. I have a right to what I want because I need it. And my right to what I need is superior to your right not to give it. So you get this inevitable standoff in IRDs. If you loved me, you'd do this. One part, of course, that's what one partner says. The other partner responds with, if you loved me, you wouldn't ask me to do this. And they're both right from their respective perspectives. They're both wrong because they're not seeing the dynamic of the relationship, but they're both right. If you love me, you do this. If you love me, you wouldn't ask me to do this. Sadly, there's no way off this treadmill, not while the relentless engine of IRDs chugs along, as we'll see in the next section.